Oh, wow. Look at that. Just jumped out of the shower. Not looking too good. But then again, am I ever really looking all that good? Holy cow, I should put a hat on, huh? There we go. Oh, wow. What's up, everybody? Wow. Sorry for those of you who tuned in on time. Yeah, oh well, looking somewhat presentable. How's everybody doing on this fine Sunday? Selection Sunday. I love Selection Sunday. In fact, hold on one second. I'm going to show you how I get prepared for Selection Sunday. I'm just going to disappear for a second. All right, I'm back. So this is kind of crazy. If anybody ever asked me my favorite breakfast cereal, probably Cheerios. Back in the day, I would cut a box of Cheerios, and on the inside, I'd make basically a flat cardboard surface, and I'd draw the brackets. And on the inside of the Cheerios box, I would follow along as they call out, the number 1 seed playing the 16 seed, and I would write it all down. Now I've graduated to a little like cue card where I'm ready to. Can you see that? I'm ready to write those in. So that starts at 3:30. So I'm going to go to a little get together down the street at St. Mary's College for my Selection Sunday show. So should be fun. What do we got here? So anyway, first off, I just want to say thank you for tuning in to this YouTube live. I'm not here to defend the 49ers moves in the start of the new league year. I'm not here to bash the 49ers moves. I'm here to, if we want to get into each one, maybe the reasoning, and no one, I haven't really had an open line with the organization through the past week as far as why they made the decisions they made or why they didn't make the decisions that they didn't make. But I think that through it all, we can surmise why the decisions were made and why some guys are coming back, many guys are leaving, and some guys were added. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. And hope you didn't have to see me get ready like I did. First off, good result for the Rangers today. Okay. I don't follow the Rangers or their arch rivals, the Celtics, but I will take it. I will leave it up to you to tell me that it was a good result. It sounds like the 49ers investment arm, 49ers Enterprise, is getting ready to make that purchase of another soccer team, having already purchased Leeds, taking over full control of Leeds a couple of years ago. So anyway, let's shall we get going? Well, first off, let me just kind of recap yesterday, which was an interesting day because I think it was in the wee hours when I woke up. It had already been reported nationally that Kyle Juszczyk, whom the 49ers released, had re-signed with the club. And that's kind of a net neutral as far as salary cap stuff. Haven't seen the structure of the contract, but you can be sure it didn't cost the 49ers any more money than if they had released him. I would imagine that it comes out of cap savings. And then, of course, later in the evening, 49ers complete that trade to send Jordan Mason to the Minnesota Vikings. And so I tried to cover some of this on the last video I posted yesterday evening, why the 49ers would make that move. And I think, I wrote something about a month ago that really looked into Jordan Mason, and I wondered if the 49ers would even tender him, because it just seemed like with Isaac Grindo being more of a versatile running back, he had the same yards per carry. He basically, he gave up 2 touchdowns and more yards by taking a knee when he was heading toward the end zone on a couple of plays during the course of the season. And then coupled with he's a much better route runner and pass catcher. I don't know that I saw Jordan Mason being the backup. So at the price it would have cost for the 49ers just to tender him, I thought, man, I don't know if they're going to do that. So, I was a bit surprised when they put the second round tender on him. But then I think, as we kind of talked about, uh, both me on this channel and then Jennifer and I on the 49ers Talk podcast, the prospect of a trade was very, very possible. And ultimately, what it showed was the 49ers had no intention of having a backup running back as the highest paid backup running back in the NFL. But by tendering him at the second round amount, it locked him up, and it gave a good jumping off point for the 49ers to engage in trade talks with other teams. So, no team was going to sign him to an offer sheet and then give the 49ers a second round draft pick as compensation. But what the 49ers were able to do was retain his rights and then negotiate with other teams while giving him permission and his agent permission to negotiate their contract with other teams. And I believe that the deal was 2 years, $7 million. So $3.5 million per year, far down from the $5 million that the 49ers had tendered him as a for a second round tender. So the 49ers were able to get a 6th round pick next year for Jordan Mason, as well as moving up 27 spots from their 6th round pick at 187 to the Vikings' 5th round pick at 160. So that is the reason for that. And the very first thing I see is I should sprinkle more Wizard of Oz analogies. Oh, come on now. You don't want me to go down that yellow brick road, do you? Okay, let's see what you guys have. I'm going to go back up here to the top. Oh, wow, we got from Austria. Do you think the 49ers have any interest in CJ Mosley? And do they add another quality? Ooh, that's okay. Okay. My thought would be 49ers aren't going to pay top dollar. And I don't know what it would be for top dollar. Now, CJ Mosley, there's obviously a connection there with Robert Saleh. So that would make sense. A lot of sense. Don't know what his market value is, but would they have any interest? I would assume yes, they would. Also want to alert you to my mock draft. My 4.0 mock draft is coming out this week. I've already decided who I'm going to have the 49ers taking at number 11 overall. My first 3 picks, and I've done one that's different person each time. My 1.0 was Shamar Stewart, the defensive lineman from Texas A&M. My 2.0 was Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end. The 3.0 was Armand Mimbu, the offensive lineman from Missouri. So I will tell you this. In my 4.0, both Tyler Warren and Armand Mimbu will both be gone. So kind of going in that realm of linebacker, edge rusher. I'm kind of not locked in to the 49ers taking a defensive player at number 11, but that's certainly the way I'm going to go here with my 4.0. And let me know who you think I'm going to go with. I already sent it in to my desk at NBCSportsBayArea.com and written up the little blurb. But I think my 4.0 is coming out here in a couple days. But that's my hint. A guy who can play off the ball and a guy who can maybe on nickel downs go rush the passer. So that's my hint. You probably know who it is. What do we got here? Let's see. 49ers should invest in SFAs. Is that street free agents? I'm assuming that's SFAs, street free agents, guys who got cut. Yeah, I mean they have done that in the past. 49ers should invest in street free agents since they don't affect the comp pick formula. I think is Charles Omenihu really a street free agent? I didn't think he got released by Kansas City. He's still with Kansas City, right? Let's see what Charles. Let me just look at Kansas City's. Um, Let me look at their free agents. What do we got here? No, he's a UFA. So Amenahu is somebody that would count toward toward that formula. Let's see here. There's questions about the business side of why Mason was traded. Yeah, the Fourier, he was on the books to make $5.3 million as the second round tender. So by trading him, that is wiped completely off. So the Foreigners, in essence, save $5.3 million in cap space. They feel like they have a number two as it is with Isaac Garindo. And then it is a very good draft for running backs. And we're talking running backs in the second, third, all the way through the fourth round, maybe even the fifth round. So that's kind of the reasoning that I could see why they would trade Jordan Mason. As I said, they weren't going to pay him. They weren't going to make him the second highest paid or the highest paid backup in the NFL. And before him, I think it was Miles Sanders. And then he was the first highest paid backup running back. And then he gets released. So it just that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, I know you could say, well, it does make sense because you don't know what you're getting with Christian McCaffrey. The Foreigners seem confident, relatively confident, cautiously optimistic that Christian McCaffrey will be healthy. But of course, you'd never know. I mean, he was healthy when he came back. The healthiest is all season, quite clearly, was in the Buffalo game. And he looked very good in that game. But what happens? Injury happens. It wasn't the injuries that kept him out through the first 8 games of the season, all the training camp in the first 8 games of the season. It was something completely different. It was a posterior cruciate ligament in his knee, no connection to the bilateral tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis that kept him out through most of the season. Let's see here. Well, is Moody the only untouchable on the team? I wouldn't say that, but 49ers have expressed a lot of confidence. And in fact, they kind of took the blame for Jake Moody's second half struggles because John Lynch felt like they probably rushed him back too soon. He had the high ankle sprain, his kicking leg. I think he was 12 of 13 before the injury. And then after the injury, he was abysmal. So I don't know if a kicker can snap his finger and get the confidence back. That's what you need from your kicker. But I think after the 49ers selected him, in the third round, late in the third round of the 2023 draft, they want to make sure that they don't release him, move on from him, and then see him flourish with some other team. Let's see here. Are the 49ers gambling on CMC's health this year? I think they're gambling on everybody's health, to be honest with you. I mean, just think about, a lot of the guys they let go. And when I say they let go, they were the guys they released. The only one who had injury issues was Javon Hargrave. Malik Collins and Leonard Floyd both played 17 games, but they showed that they weren't going to go to a certain level to re-sign Hufanga or Greenlaw. With Christian McCaffrey, I don't think there was ever any thought about moving on from him. I think they felt like he looked like the same Christian McCaffrey after a couple of games, 3 games, I think it was, where he didn't really show that burst, but he kind of looked like the player who was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year in 2023 in that game against Buffalo in the snowy conditions. So are they gambling? I don't know if they're gambling. I'd say they're hoping he stays healthy. But they'll add to the running back position. Elijah Mitchell goes to Kansas City. Jordan Mason goes to Minnesota. So right now it's Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerrero, Patrick Taylor, um, Israel Abanikanda. I know that he's somebody that someone mentioned, like, hey, you didn't mention him on the depth chart. Well, part of the reason I didn't is because he never suited up for an NFL game last year. He was a draft pick of the Jets in 2023, appeared in 6 games. Last year, he was inactive every game that he appeared with the Jets. When they released him and he was on the practice squad, 49ers claimed him. He didn't suit up for them either. So hard to put him on that depth chart when he didn't even suit up for a game last year. Hey, Papa J says, like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like this and leave a message and everything else. Okay, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here. Going back to soccer. Yes, I'm reminded that Leeds is leading the table in the championship division. Last I checked, they had a 3-point lead, right? In the or maybe 3-point lead over third place. And help me out if I'm wrong, but they're level down from Premier. In the championship division, the first 2 teams automatically get promoted to Premier for the following season. And then third, fourth, 5th, and 6th, they play basically a 4-team tournament to determine who the third team is that goes up. So Leeds was third last year, and they lost to go up. So they stayed in the second level. So let's see if they can get back up there. Let's see here. Someone says there's no need to bash these decisions. This is life in the NFL. Yeah, one thing that's kind of interesting, I have talked a lot about, the 49ers did spend the most in the NFL cash over cap last year. And, it's certainly not uncommon for a team to spend a lot of money one year and then dial it back the next year. So what I would say to that is, could they continue to spend big money? Absolutely. But the more big money you spend, cash over cap, at some point, all that cash is going to have to be accounted for on the cap. So then you get into a situation back in the day. Remember 49 salary cap hell? I don't know. Some of you might not remember that, but it was basically they had to cut almost every significant player on their team or move on from every significant player on the team because of the salary cap. Just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, the Rams, well, let's see, in 2022, the Rams spent the most of any team in the NFL. And it paid off in a big way for them because they won the Super Bowl. The next year, guess what happened? They spent the least amount of any team in the NFL. So I think the 49ers will still spend some cash. And so I don't know if they're going to finish as the lowest spending team in the NFL. Right now, I think they are, probably by a big margin. But looking to the future, they still have the Brock Purdy contract to get done. And then they've telegraphed, or they've said they want to get something done with George Kittle. So that's a lot of guaranteed money, upfront money, theoretically, that will go to Brock Purdy and George Kittle. That will be counted against the cap eventually, spread out over time. But as far as the cash goes, that will go against the cash spending this year. Hope some of that made sense. Hey, what's up? Says Matt, hope you have a great weekend today. Thank you very much. Like I said, I'm excited for Selection Sunday. Oh, and by the way, I don't know where you're watching this from, but I'm going to be traveling this week to wherever the NCAA tournament takes me. Not for work, but just for fun as a fan. So I'll be going to either one of 8 spots: Denver, Providence, Lexington, Wichita, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Raleigh, or Seattle. So If you're from one of those towns, keep an eye out for me. I will be in one of those places. Let's see here. Not sure how I feel about Juice being back. That's one that, when they signed Luke Farrell, the tight end from the Jaguars, I thought, okay, what does that mean? It means they're not going to be a 21 personnel, two backs, one tight end. They're going to be a 12 personnel, one back, two tight ends. It never really made a whole lot of sense to me why in his final year of his contract, Friars would feel inclined to move on from Kyle Juszczyk. Juszczyk, Leonard Floyd, and Malik Collins were the three guys. I was like, yeah, did they really gain that much cap space by moving on from them? So the other part of it is when they let Kyle Juszczyk go, when they let those other two guys go, what happened? And throw in Javon Hargrave too. Javon Hargrave immediately finds employment with the Vikings. Javon Hargrave, yeah. And then you had, Leonard Floyd immediately goes to the Falcons. And then you have Malik Collins. Was it the Browns? I think it was the Browns for Javon Hargrave. So when you have, did I say that? No, Hargrave, Vikings. Yeah, Collins, Browns, and Floyd, Vikings. With Kyle Juszczyk, there probably wasn't going to be that because so few teams in the NFL use a fullback. And Juszczyk had a good season last year, one of his better seasons probably. So he doesn't necessarily show the wear and tear of the years that he's played. I mean, he's been 9 straight Pro Bowls, chosen for 9 straight Pro Bowls, 8 consecutive in his 8 years with the 49ers. He'll probably go again in 2025 or be selected to that team again just because he's one of the few fullbacks out there. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So it wasn't a huge shock, really, that the 49ers bring Kyle Juszczyk back, and he very well might still be the highest paid fullback in the NFL. Let's see here. Will 49ers trade Ayuk for a kicker and a 4th-round pick? Yeah, I doubt that. Yeah. Okay. So here's one. Anyone that's followed the team could see the Mason trade coming a mile away. I would agree with that. Trust me. Was not shocked. I mean, I didn't hammer you over the head with they're going to trade Jordan Mason, but you knew something would have to give there, whether it was the 49ers determining to keep him long term with a lower contract, multi-years, kind of like what they did with Juwan Jennings last year, although that wasn't a lower contract. They gave him the 2nd-round tender and then worked out a deal with him. But again, with Mason is basically he's a base down running back, 1st and 2nd down. Kyle Shanahan, Bobby Turner need their running backs to be able to run the ball. They'll be able to stay on the field on 3rd downs, either in pass protection or being a factor catching passes out of the backfield. That really wasn't Mason's game. So I know he's worked on it, but you could still tell it just wasn't, it wasn't great. Let's see here. Would asking 11 wins from this team this year be a stretch in terms of expectation? Probably. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Now I say that, but the 49ers, they are favored. I mentioned this on one of the previous videos I did. They are favored by Las Vegas to win the NFC West. So that's kind of surprising to me, to be honest with you. Hey, I see something green pop up here. Let me go down. Let me find this. It's from Sean Payton. I'm assuming not the Sean Payton, although he might be tuning in here to find out more about Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. Okay, so here's what Sean says. Thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate it. That's awesome of you. Draft swap picks and our 7 top 11 picks will be used to move up if needed since we have slot this year. So it's basically the 49ers do have the capabilities of moving up to get guys, no doubt about it. And when you look at their draft, I mean, their draft right now, They have 4 picks in the top 100, including the 100th pick. So they have picks at 11, 43, 75, 100. And then with the selection or the trade yesterday, they have 4 more picks in the next 60. So they have 113, 138, 147, and 160. So that is a lot of picks. And 8 picks in the top 160. They can do a lot of damage there. What else did Sean actually I was going to say? So anyway, I hope that answers your question. And I see a very nice comment from Gammon Brown. Thank you. Thank you for that compliment. Okay, I'm going back up here to see what I have. Oh, Sean typing? He's typing fast, apparently. Okay, so let's see. Does the salary cap rollover from 2024 affect dead money in 2025? I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but what happened, let's just say that, yeah, well, I guess it does. Any dollar not spent 1 year, any space not accounted for on the salary cap 1 year, if a team is 10 million under the cap in 24, that rolls over to 25. Does that make sense? So the 49ers have like what's the latest number here? It was like 70, almost $80 million in dead money. Let's see. Yeah, it's according to overthecap.com, 77.9 million in dead money. So all that means is basically if the cap is whatever the cap is, whatever unspent money from 1 year rolls over to the next. So in that case, it doesn't specifically pertain to dead money. And dead money, in case you're unfamiliar with that term, it's basically bonus money already paid to a player that has yet to count against the cap. And then that player is no longer on the team. So all of that unpaid or unaccounted for money that's already been paid, that is dead money. Because let's just say, for instance, 49ers sign a player and give him a $10 million signing bonus. And before he even plays a snap, they cut him. Say it was a 5-year contract. So if he had played all the 5 years, well, 2 million would have counted against the cap for each of those 5 years. And that's the $10 million signing bonus. If you cut him before he even plays a game, then all that $10 million would accelerate into that cap. So that player, if it's before June 1, but let's not get into semantics. So therefore, if that player isn't on the team, that's $10 million of dead money already paid to him that has to count against the cap. I see another question here. This is from Silent, Silehent. Thank you so much for the question. Do you get the sense the front office is trying to test both the coaches and scouts by handcuffing Cash? Are they setting Kyle to sink or swim? No, because last year was the exact opposite. Last year they spent tons and tons of money, and so there has to be. I guess there doesn't have to be. You could just keep kicking that can down the road if you wanted to, but they spent $85 million over the cap last year. So no, this isn't like a test or setting people up to fail. I don't know. So I get a lot of questions about, Kyle or Jed York wanting to fire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Nothing could be further from the truth. I don't know where that all started, but I mean, I think those guys are going to be around for a while. And the only way they're not around for a while is if there turns into just major dysfunction in the locker room. And you can, a lot of times you can tell, like when you walk into the building, when you walk into the locker room, you can sense like just things aren't right. Coach has lost control. The general manager has lost, respect or whatever. I don't see that as the case at all. So I know there will be, if the Flyers start off 0-2, they lose their first game, there will be all kinds of questions about, are they on the hot seat? Um, I, I don't sense that at all. I mean, this is an organization that, other than last year, where there are some very obvious reasons why things went south quite dramatically, but before that, I mean, they were probably being held up as, well, they definitely were held up as one of the model franchises in the NFL. So no, I don't think that they're setting up Kyle Shanahan to fail so that they can fire him. I don't get that sense at all. Let's go back here. Let's see. Okay, what's the situation with Juan Thornhill? He was in the building a couple of days ago, but he left, which means there's not a contract in place with him. That might be one of those situations with a veteran safety, and we see it where if you're a veteran safety or you're a veteran player, period, and you're not part of that first wave of free agency, and the offer or the dollar amounts you're talking about or the team is talking about just doesn't really match what you think that you're worth. A lot of times veteran players will just kind of tread water, just kind of stay out there and wait to see if something materializes later. A lot of times, safe, veteran guys, they'll wait until after the draft to see what's going on, or they'll wait until training camp to see if there's injuries and where they might be able to fit. I see another one. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, everybody. This is from Rob Iman. I think this will be a cap correction year for the Niners, and I'm thinking Brock gets around 50 to 55 million. Rob, I agree with you. I mean, this is a cap correction year. There's no question about it, and that's something that John Lynch was very upfront about. As far as he used the terms recalibrate, reset. He'd love to go, but sometimes you have to take a step back. He talked about uh, building growing the core and supplementing around it. So, um, yeah, I mean, this is definitely a year where they spent a lot last year to try to make a run at it. That didn't work, and now it's time to kind of take a step back as far as the spending goes. Now, as I mentioned, and there have been a lot of questions. By the way, Rob, thank you so much for that. There have been a lot of questions about the 49ers rebuilding. Is this a teardown? Is this whatever? Is this setting up Shanahan and Lynch to fail? What I would say is this: is that when I think it was on my podcast that John Lynch said about growing the core and supplementing around it. Think about the core the 49ers have. Brock Purdy, quarterback, who's going to get paid. You have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams. That's five guys, five very highly paid guys on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, one guy at every level. It's Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore. So that's eight guys right there who are seven guys who are making $15 million a year or more. And then Purdy is going to be making, a crap load of money whenever he signs his deal. He'll become the highest paid player in the team. That currently is held by Nick Bosa at $34 million. So I don't see it being a teardown because they still have a lot of high priced players. And I don't think you can have all those veteran guys that I just listed and say it's a teardown, it's a rebuild, it's a replenish, I guess. And with those draft picks that I talked about, by the way, have I seen anybody guess who I'm going to take at number 11 overall for the 49ers? I don't think I have, unless I skip through it. But no, I think that they have an opportunity to get some really good players, and especially on the defensive line. Up, I see someone already got it right. I see someone. They have an opportunity in this draft to get some really good players who can make an impact, most specifically on the defensive line. As the defensive line is really thin. I think part of why the 49ers made the decision with Leonard Floyd and not Yetur Gross-Matos is because of the versatility. Leonard Floyd is probably best as a situational pass rusher. He did started and played 17 games last year, but Gross Matos, with his ability to line up outside on base downs and then move inside to rush the passer in nickel situations, that's something that I think Robert Saleh values. But if in this draft, if they can get two defensive linemen, an edge guy, a defensive tackle, who can either be of starting quality or somebody who is part of a rotation. I mean, just look at what the Rams have done in the draft the past 3 years. They have such a good core of defensive linemen that they've really just kind of made over that defense. And who would have thought that a strength of the Rams would be their defensive line when just a year ago they were saying goodbye to Aaron Donald. So um, that's where I am with that. So yeah, once again, thank you to all my guys there, Sean Payton and who else we got? Boy, we got a lot of comments here. I'm scrolling down here. Rob Iman, thank you so much. Let's see here. What do we got? Oh wow, is this Sean again? Holy cow, Sean! Do you see a scenario Purdy gets traded to a quarterback needy team and let Mac Jones take over? I don't see that. I don't see that at all because then the 49ers would become a quarterback needy team. Um, no, do not see that. Now, it's funny, in free agency, the one guy with some name recognition, yeah, they signed Demarcus Robinson, a wide receiver whose status early in the season might be in question because of the potential violation of the NFL's policy on substances of abuse. That's a mouthful, isn't it? But yeah, the one guy with the big name recognition that they signed, Mac Jones, is a guy they hope will never step on the field because he comes to them as the backup quarterback. Um, I think it, I think the idea is if something were to happen, well, this is definitely the idea. If something were to happen to Brock Purdy, like the offense doesn't change. Mac Jones, a pocket guy, might not have the mobility that Brock Purdy does and the running ability that Brock Purdy does. And hey, let's remember, Brock Purdy he created plays last year with his legs, more rushing yards, more rushing TDs. I think he led the team in rushing TDs last year. So um, there's no question Kyle Shanahan liked Mac Jones coming out of the 2021 draft. He just thought that Trey Lance offered more in the way of forcing defenses to play 11 on 11 with the running element. Trey Lance was just not ready as a passer. He had some injuries that set him back as well. And then obviously once Brock Purdy stepped in onto the field, maybe even before that, Shanahan was like, that's what I want. That's the kind of quarterback who sees the game, processes quickly. And that was kind of one of the things about Mac Jones was the processing, the footwork, the ability to get the ball out. So, yeah, I don't see the 49ers trading Brock Purdy. And I'll be honest with you. Who would trade for Brock Purdy and give up a big price and give him the big money? That kind of opens up something too. When people talk about, the best quarterbacks in the game, what is it exactly are they saying? The most talented quarterbacks in the game, the guys who, um, the guys who have the strongest arms, who make the most wow throws, or is it, or is it like who puts up the better numbers? Who has the higher passer rating? Who makes the fewest mistakes? Um, and so, playing for the, playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense, Brock Purdy has been really successful. And you could say he's been more successful in Kyle Shanahan's offense than almost any quarterback in the league, um, with their particular offense. I mean, you can look at the numbers, but that's one that I always have a difficult time sorting out, because if you were to line up 32 starting quarterbacks and just said, let's watch him throw a football, Brock Purdy would probably be far down on that list. But when you put him in a system and have him run the plays as designed, and then whenever the play isn't there, making some sort of second reaction play, that's where Brock Purdy thrives. And so he has found a home in this 49er system. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have both said, we hope he's around as long as we are. So there's that. Yeah, someone, I just see this right at the bottom. I need to upgrade the hostage video backdrop. Yeah, so doing some stuff in the house. I'm actually in my daughter's room, and so I just threw up a curtain behind it, behind me here. So yeah, sorry, it's not exactly the best backdrop, but oh well. You don't watch this for how I look. Face it, do you? Because you wouldn't be watching if you're just watching for how I look. What do we have? Giving our new ruthless, efficient philosophy that should apply to Brock as well. If you guys want Brock, the starting point is the Deshaun Watson trade package. Yeah, no one's doing that. The worst trade in the history of the NFL. What the Browns did to acquire Deshaun Watson and then give him that fully guaranteed contract. The best quarterback throws the ball where the receiver can catch it. It's as simple as that, isn't it? It's as simple as that. Okay, I am about ready to duck out of here. Selection Sunday starts in 30 minutes. I'm fired up. Seeing what that bracket looks like. Any college basketball fans out there? Let's see it. Okay, Brandon wants to know, give me your pick at 11. I don't think I can't spoil it. Let me just see. Let me look at my budget here. Let's see when I'm supposed to have my mock draft. My mock draft comes out on Wednesday, March 19th. But as I told you, I've already made the selection, who I'm going to pick. It's locked in. And so I think you'll like it. I think it'll create a little bit of, discussion. Yeah, I think it's a good pick, and it's based on in what I've done. My mock drafts. The first one I did was after the regular season. Second one I did was after the Senior Bowl. Third one I did was after the NFL Scouting Combine. And then this fourth one is after the first wave of free agency. So, for instance, I think I had the Chicago Bears taking an offensive lineman with, I think they picked ninth. Is that right? Let me just look at my mock here. The Bears pick 10th. Yeah, they pick right before the 49ers. So in my third mock draft, I had the Bears taking a running back, Ashton Genty. But, I was thinking like Bears offensive lineman at that point, but they filled so many holes with their offensive line that I don't see them taking an offensive lineman in the first round. So that's why just kind of some mixing and matching. And with the 49ers at number 11, not that they won it already, but, bringing Juszczyk back, doesn't have any impact as far as I'm concerned on what position they would take. But, also paying decent money for a tight end, Did that have any impact on, say, taking Colson Loveland or Tyler Warren?